So, hi, Kevin Monroe. It's great to meet with you again. As always, it's a real pleasure. How are you doing?
Oh, Steve, well, right now I'm just excited. I am energized because you and I have only known each other for 2 weeks now,
It feels like forever.
but we have had an amazing, deep, rich, robust connection. And so when you invited me to join you here, the natural answer was yes, I can't wait.
And in a world where we can easily be connected, and then we still strive for connection. It's great to have your energy and your heart, in
Mm.
this space. Sometimes you invite people to things and you think, well, I hope they'll come. I hope they're not too busy. And your answer is like, oh yeah, and it warms my heart. So that's great. And I'm building content for this platform, the managers who lead, and you're top of mind because of the
Wow.
of the work and the focus that you have with. I've actually shared the key word in a couple of podcasts that I've been on in terms of things start with gratitude. And so what's your take on that? I mean, you've lived
Well,
it.
first off, I want to welcome you managers who lead, right? We're crafting, we're curating this conversation specifically with you in mind.
Mm,
And and I've been in that role before, right? I remember those earliest managerial roles I had. And, Steve, sometimes we didn't get a lot of help
it's
from
true.
above. And people that were reporting to us, people, and I love, man, I'm just going to drop a lot of different words. I picked up a phrase from a CEO, Bob Chapman of Barry Waymiller. He talks about not your span of control, but your circle of care.
Mm,
Right? So,
span of control.
just as we're thinking about, I think, okay, we're not talking about who's in your span of control. We're talking about who are you gifted to have in your circle of care
Mm,
as a manager who leads.
mm, mm. That's powerful because I know um, my managerial IT story spans working in the US and the UK, and and it's a very different mindset sometimes. Even the term manager, the term manager in the UK is different to the term manager in the US, and I guess that kind of speaks to how people perceive leadership. They think of things being applied to leaders, and managers don't even necessarily think of themselves in that frame of reference. And that's again the reason why this group is the managers who lead, because really leadership is not just the title. It
Yeah,
is the circle of care, and it is a way of being as opposed to a title that you have.
absolutely. So, can we just say this? You in this group, whether you have caught up with that identity yet or not, that you are a leader, you are a leader.
That's
And
true.
there are people looking to you for leadership,
Mm, that's true.
right? And step into it. You don't become a leader when somebody gives you a title,
Mm,
right? I mean, and there are many people. Okay, I've worked for a lot of people that had title leaders
hmm.
that they didn't know how to lead, Steve. They
Yeah.
didn't lead.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to make decisions, right? So managers who lead, I just want to own it. You
Yeah.
lead. You
Yeah.
lead. And there are people looking to you for leadership.
Mm, mm. And that's powerful. It's powerful because um, there's one of the scenarios that I came from was being in a team, and and the way that succession planning was made was that if you're good in the team, you could end up managing the team, and and that puts you in a different scope, a different sphere of work and influence. And sometimes that kind of ascribed leadership or ascribed management comes with its own concerns, because what you were good at, you now have risen into, you rise up to your level of incompetence, right? You like to do what you like to do what you do well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to move into a space where now your competence is being tested because it's a different persona, it's a different set of
Yeah.
tasks and things to do. And really, one of the things is that, like you said, owning it in yourself in terms of being a leader, taking on that mantle of leadership will
Yeah.
then bring things into your circle of reference to help you lead,
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
thinking, oh, I've been labored down. I've been bogged down with this role. I've had people who have been offered leadership or managerial roles within a team, for example, and they said, "Oh no, I don't want that," because either maybe it could be partly that they like their expertise in IT. That's my background in IT. It's very much a specialist, knowledge-based
Yep.
environment. So people cherish and value their expertise. Moving into a management space may compromise what they already know or force them to learn something new,
Yeah.
which then moves them into another uncomfortable zone. And owning the identity is almost the first step, and
It is.
then you can get the things around you.
And there's a challenge in good companies or in great companies. They know that they're inviting you or maybe even requiring you as that manager who was a subject matter expert, that now you are the manager of a group of subject matter experts,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a transition. And in the great companies, they help you make that transition.
Sure.
In the less than great companies, they just hope you'll figure it out. Right? I'm serious,
Yeah.
right? And they,
Yeah.
they don't really understand. Oh, we're requiring different skill sets of you. We're requiring different mindsets of you,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a plan to help you make that transition. Others, no, we just hope you're smart enough to figure it out. You were smart enough to figure all of these things out, so we're going to trust you're smart enough to figure this out here. And it hit me just as you were saying that, that one of the interesting things as a manager who leads, your the people in your circle of care, the people that report to you, the people that you have influence over, they are looking to you to receive things that, again, I'm just going to say, in the best of companies, you are also receiving from those above you in the organization.
Yeah.
But there are many times that you're not receiving that from those above you, and you have to find it somewhere else, or you have to source it somewhere else, because the people reporting to you, the people in your circle of care, they still need it. And Steve, I mean, this is a real good bridge or segue into us to talk about the topic that really energizes and excites me of gratitude. But do you agree that, right? I mean, have you been in companies where you got that from leaders, and then there are other companies? Okay, so I'm a big fan of servant leadership, and I just happen to have this copy here. Robert Greenleaf. He's the guy that issued or created the concept servant leadership in 1970. And one of the metaphors I got, I can't remember if Robert Greenleaf actually used these words or if it was a metaphor I got, because for years I taught his concepts. I actually worked for the Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership, helping companies adopt and implement servant leadership. And there are times, how do we say this nicely? I will use I used to do some government consulting as well. I'll use the term the head of one of the centers I worked with used. He's a very educated man. He would say excrement flows in a southerly direction.
Very nicely put.
Yeah, very
For
nicely put.
for a sensitive audience. It is
Person,
20th century.
so maybe one of the roles you serve, it's sad if that's the case, and there's all this crap coming down. Maybe one of the roles you serve is you hold an umbrella up so that the people in your circle of care aren't as affected by that as they could. Now, that's a valuable role, but isn't it better that that's not happening, right? And there's good stuff coming from above, and you're just a conduit for what's the good stuff that's coming in. You get to pass that along, but there may be a time when you are a shield or an umbrella. You're protecting your people from this nonsense, from the politics, from the the interdepartmental squabbles of who's getting credit for what great thing that happened inside a unit that your team did, but somebody else is stealing the credit for it, right? Those things happen.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting you say that. That's very true. It, the stuff does fall in a southerly direction, and I remember I was moved into a position of management within a team that I joined as a member of the team, and I had some of that trepidation in terms of I had the opportunity to join the company as a manager of the team or as a member of the team. And I chose to join them as a member of the team, senior engineer within the group, because I felt like it was an imposition for me to come into an organization and not necessarily know the ins and outs first. And it made sense. And then a few months into the role, there were some managerial shifts, and I was promoted to the role of managing the team. And at that point, I was ready for it in the sense that I felt I'd got enough confidence within the team to step into that role. But I still had those fears in terms of, it's not even imposter syndrome, but an imposter phenomenon. Whenever you step into something that's new, you feel like an imposter until you get to a point where you feel you've got a sense of certainty or comfortability about the area that you're in. And imposter phenomenon is different to syndrome. Syndrome has lots of other connotations around it, but the phenomena is real and it's pervasive, and it's not a bad thing. There's always areas that you step into when you move your comfort zone out that are going to make you feel like an imposter. So it's a good thing to recognize the phenomenon, but don't get caught up in the syndrome.
Very good.
In that, but all that to say, one of the things I took away was that my role was to make sure that my team had everything they needed to get their job done, which in some ways meant providing things, and in other ways it meant preventing them being distracted by things.
Exactly.
The umbrella being put up.
Exactly.
And it's interesting that in that respect of putting the umbrella up to protect you from all the crap that's coming down, you're under the umbrella too. As a manager, you need to protect yourself.
Yep.
From that stuff. So you build your own mental fortitude, your spiritual fortitude, your values fortitude, because as your team, looks to you for leadership, you need to make sure that you've got, you're building those qualities in yourself.
Yep. Okay. So Steve, one of those things, right, that everybody, I think you and I will agree on this. Everyone in every workplace of the world, because it's a core human value, right? It's a core, or actually, the way that I've heard it phrased, I want to quote it: the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Is something William James, the father of psychology, said. The greatest craving is to be appreciated. So everybody in every workplace of the world has a longing, a craving to be seen, heard, valued, and appreciated for their unique contributions. Now, in the best of scenarios and in the best of situations, you as a manager who is a leader, you're a conduit, and that appreciation and gratitude are flowing from the top down of the organization, and you're just passing along. You're part of that, that flow of expressing gratitude and appreciation. However, that's not always the case. And it may be more difficult for you as a manager who is a leader to give this to the people on your team when you're not receiving it from the people above you in the organization. When the people above you aren't seeing, hearing, valuing, and appreciating you as the manager who is a leader, or as a leader of a team, when you're not receiving it, it may be more difficult to give it to the people below you, but it's not impossible, and it's still important. They still need it. So like I say, in the best of situations, it's abundant. And we have created a culture of appreciation and recognition. Now, in a lot of situations, the only recognition that really happens is once a year, and people are given their service anniversaries, and we're recognizing people for 1 year of service, 5 years of service, 7, 10, 12, whatever that is, right? We're not recognizing them for their contribution per se. We're just recognizing them for staying here, for enduring, right? It's really an endurance race at that level. But as this, right? So do you agree that in every workplace you've been, every team you've been a part of, people on that team wanted to know, am I seen, heard, valued, and appreciated for my contributions?
Yes, totally. And you know what? You mentioned a word in there as well in terms of building a culture. And culture belongs to everybody in the organization.
Absolutely.
And having a mindset that culture is owned by everyone in the organization gives everybody a sense of autonomy that they can have a part to play. So even if you, like you said, it is I personally value recognition over pay. You would get more from me by recognizing me, being seen, valued, heard, and appreciated, than you would by putting an extra 5,000. Yeah, over a year, a $5,000 increase in your salary is going to have less of an impact than you being seen, heard, valued, and appreciated. You'll stay
So,
around for that more
absolutely.
so than the money. It sounds kind of like, how do you weigh that up? But the stress levels that you experience, the joy of going to work, the commute to work is pleasurable. The activity of engaging with your customers and your team, all of those things add up to much more than what you would get in a in
Well,
a in a salary
and let's
increase.
add one more dimension to this, one that's important to both you and me. I know this. How you leave work at the end of the day, right? When you leave work, are you absolutely depleted? Have you endured all that you can endure and your tank is empty, and now you're going home or wherever it is you go, and you're going to the people, whoever they may be, that you spend your out of work hours with. Now, if that's family and you happen to be a parent, wow, it's really difficult when you have been humiliated or you have been drained all day, and you're going home, and all you want to do is to escape all of the rigors of what you had, versus you go home from a job where you felt valued, where someone called you out and gave you praise, privately or publicly, for your contribution on a project. Right? We just did a survey. We were asking people, and you were part of it, how recently have you felt seen, heard, valued, or appreciated, and how? And there were several people that said they had felt it in the last 24 hours or the last 72 hours. There were a lot of people that hadn't experienced it in the last 30 days. And when we started getting into the qualitative comments, some of them were, hey, I just showed up in my boss's office unexpectedly, And it just out of the blue, he was praising me for my contribution to a project. This wasn't a formal review. This wasn't any kind of formal meeting. It was just, hey, we met in the hall, we pop in the office, and all of a sudden, oh, Steve, I saw what you did. That was fist bump, high five, whatever that is, right? Now, Steve's on cloud nine. And at the end of that day, is Steve energized or discharged and drained when you leave work?
Yeah, yeah, and
Boom.
that that's funny because it is how you leave work is just as important, in some ways more important than how you go to work.
Well, it's an equally powerful indicator, right? So
Yes.
Bob Chapman was the CEO, is the CEO of Barry Way Miller, and they have companies in Europe, all over Europe. He had bought a company, and he was there on the first day of their acquisition. People didn't know who he was. And this was just a factory in the southeast part of the United States, and it happened to be in the month of March. And he's in the break room, and March, we have March Madness, college basketball, and all of these people in the break room, they're talking about their brackets, they're talking about, it was a Monday morning, talking about the games over the weekend, and there was all of this buzz and this excitement, and it was a factory. And then a bell rang. It was time to go to work. Bob says, I'm just sitting there in the corner. Nobody knows who I am or why I'm here. They're not even paying me any attention. And I just watched the life, energy, and excitement drain out of everybody in that room. And he knew culture was wrong. But I want to go back to the culture thing, because you said something. I don't want to lose this. Culture. There is a company culture that you're a part of and you can contribute to. But you know what? Despite what your company culture is, you can have a team culture
Yes.
that can be different. It can be a mirror, and in some ways it will mirror it, but it can be different, right? You can have these other things that you don't like in that big culture, but you have this ability to create a little different culture. And we know that we're the outliers in the company, but in our team, right, we do things differently. We have each other's back. We don't throw people under the bus.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and that's great because there's a sense of I think of Daniel Pink's book Drive,
Yeah.
and a couple of the key the sort of the pillars of the motivation, the intrinsic motivation for someone, especially in the workplace, but I guess it applies in life, is that element of autonomy, a sense of mastery, and purpose.
Huh.
And I would add a fourth, and a lot of people do add a fourth, of recognition, and that's where
Yeah.
the gratitude and
Yeah.
praise comes in.
Okay.
But even in that microcosm of those four elements, they can apply across an organization, and they can apply across a team, and they can apply across an individual. Daniel Pink talks about them in terms of an individual context, but you can also see that, like you're talking about, the culture of a team is their way of being autonomous
Yeah.
and building their mastery and building their purpose. In the context of work, I mean, you don't want to be a team that is against the objectives of the company,
Right.
but you can do things differently that are in alignment, that get you
Exactly.
the outcomes that you want and the outcomes that the organization wants. And you, like you said, feeling energized from work is so critical, because it's only an aspect of it's an aspect of your life. It's not your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really shouldn't be in any context.
All right. Now, since you brought up Daniel Pink, now, another synapse fires in the brain, and I'm thinking, let's talk about gratitude mastery a moment. Because I had a friend that invited me to think about this, because I used to struggle thinking, well, I don't know if I believe gratitude is something you can master, as a skill. But then I went back to Daniel Pink's definition of mastery, and it made it all simple for me. The way Pink describes mastery, getting better and better at something that truly matters. Now, does expressing gratitude, appreciation, and recognition of your people matter?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, do we want to get better at it? Yeah. And does getting better at it have an impact on the performance of our team? Yeah. And does it have an impact on the level of engagement and productivity that people bring to work? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So a couple of things. I'm looking over here because there's some statistics that I haven't committed to memory yet, but are important. 82% of employees want to receive positive feedback at least once a week.
Wow.
80% of managers think giving it once every 6 months is okay, right? But 82% of your people, they want to, I'm not saying they get it, they want to receive feedback, positive. This isn't a review. This isn't a formal commendation. It's just a fist bump, a high five, an email. If you have an internal message system, a thread, or if you're in one of these great companies that has one of these cheers for peers features, and there's some kind of company bulletin board and you can shout somebody out and it goes across the thread, the intranet, right? That counts. Another one that 56%, get this one now, 56% of people who feel appreciated are more likely to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Now, is that a game changer, right? Because most companies, if you look at Gallup and all of their statistics, most employees are doing less than is expected.
Yes.
Many are just doing as little as they can to get by, and sadly, there's this small, it's a double-digit percentage of people that are actually working against the company. Mm-hmm. But what if you had over half of your team willing, ready, looking for opportunities to go the extra mile, to do more than is expected, and to do it without even being asked? Why are they willing to do that? Because their gratitude cup is full. This human longing, craving to be seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated. When they're getting that, they're giving. Now, we don't do it to manipulate, right? That is wrong. Please, neither Steve nor I, either one, are telling you do this to get leverage. No, you do it because it's the right thing to do. And when employees feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated, 63%, according to OC Tanner, 63% are less likely to leave. They'll stay. So 79% report having higher job satisfaction. Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing, right? Yeah. And what we're talking about is simply you, as a manager who leads, being alert and aware of what's going on with the people that are in your sphere, your circle of care. And and I love this, this comes from Ken Blanchard in The 1 Minute Manager. Yeah. What do? Catch somebody doing something right. And when you catch somebody doing something right, praise them for it. We use mechanisms, just these simple cards. I'm grateful for you. But you simply see somebody do something, and whether it's a text, but now there's power of written notes. Because in most workplaces of the world, people post the personal notes they received. When it was handwritten, they hold on to it. And when you take the time to appreciate, celebrate, elevate, what I call the ACE principle, right? You want to appreciate. Because what we said earlier, So much of gratitude and appreciation is for performance, the result you produced. What we're talking about is appreciating the effort, the energy, the creativity they went into producing the result, celebrating their contribution of how they did this despite personal challenges or setbacks or other things that were going on making this difficult. Celebrate that and then elevate that they exemplify team values, right? Elevate the character qualities they used to perform the performance that you're celebrating, right? So if you take it more than just we're celebrating you for a result, but no, we are appreciating, we're celebrating, and we're elevating you and what you brought of yourself, your gift, talents, and abilities, your unique skills to produce that result. That's when people feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting you talked about like the cadence of recognition being a week where employees are impacted by being recognized on a weekly basis. So it becomes rote and mechanical. And what we're talking about, and I love Ken Blanchard. I met him many years ago at a Tony Robbins event, and amazing man. And that thing about catching them doing something right, that doesn't just apply for people who you manage. That applies for parents catching their kids or partners catching their spouse doing something right. It goes a long way. And I made a quick note. I looked away and made a quick note in my journal here about trusting the work. Sometimes what we're saying here sounds like a lot more work than you think you signed up for. I have to catch them doing right. I have to do. It feels like more work because if I've got to recognize someone on a more than 6 monthly or more than weekly basis, I'm like, oh, this is. But you have to trust the work because actually, like we say, gratitude mastery makes you get better, and in some ways, it becomes more of a nature thing. It
I was
becomes an
natural thing
unconscious,
you're
a natural,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's an unconscious competence that you're building, which then takes away that mindset of what is there a secondary motive? Is there an ulterior motive? Are we focused on making this a tactic? It should never be a tactic because then one, you're overthinking it. If you have to think about giving someone gratitude because it's the thing to do, you've already lost because you've overthought it.
Yeah.
It should be something that you build on. And the other thing is that we talk about performance and increased productivity within an organization. I've also seen the identity of gratitude or the identity of a positive culture in a company translate to the customer because
Absolutely.
it bridges that gap across the selling process is easier. The catching up and the checking in and the troubleshooting, all of the things that you do that interface with the customer become easier when you have a culture of gratitude because it bleeds out into your customer base. Customers who don't see it won't stay customers, and you really don't want them. Customers who see it are like the employee that finds it hard to leave because there's some special source when I deal with when I deal with this company that makes me stay with them.
So, so as the customer, right? I mean, when you say this, Steve, so many thoughts. I mean, there are times when I contact a customer service department and all of a sudden I feel like I'm the greatest imposition on their day. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What is your role, right? And I'm a customer. I have a problem. I'm not upset with you, but something's not working. Versus when I contact somebody, and I know this, and there are times I'll ask somebody, tell me what it's like where you work, because I can tell when the tech support rep or the customer service rep that I'm talking to, I can tell if their cup is full or empty.
Yes.
And when they feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated, it's passed on to me as a customer. And then I'm like, I know. I mean, all of a sudden, I'm like, I want to learn more about your company because your company's doing something right. That when they're customer facing people, or make it that for them, it's a joy to interact with you. And how can I solve your problem today? Like, what? It's amazing.
Yes, yeah, and it's one of those things that, like I said, it is a matter of trust in the process. We the the whole thing about the crap falling down, from above, or the negativity bias that we have in society, all of those things, we have things that are against us. The tide is not in our favor. And when the tide is not, I'm not a sea swimmer, but I mean, I've been in oceans enough to bob up and down and realize that even if you think you're standing still in an ocean, the tide is making you move further and
Yeah.
further along the
Yeah.
coast. So we have to be mindful that we operate in a tide that is not in our favor, which means we have to swim. We can't tread water. We have to
Right.
actively, proactively swim. And the action of swimming against the tide builds the muscle and builds the reserves and builds the resilience so that we can succeed. And so that's really key. We can't be complacent. We have to be intentional
Right.
about our work, and that makes it a bit easier to do.
Hey, can we squeeze one more topic in here real quick
Yes,
before we
go
run
for
out of
it.
time? Okay.
Yes.
It just hit me. I'm listening to you. I'm thinking, wow, there's one other thing. As a manager who leads, I'm curious how many meetings a week you lead. And what happens in those meetings? And is there a way? I invite you to think about this. How do your meetings traditionally or typically start now? And is there a way that you could interject gratitude and appreciation to shift the whole tone and direction of the meetings you host as a manager who leads? Now, let me explain how I mean this. And I've been parts of a lot of meetings, and back before I understood all of this, 30 years ago when I was first leading teams, I probably led some bad meetings. I know I led some bad meetings. And if you start your meeting by talking about and because so many times in meetings when people come in, there's angst. There's some negative energy. There are things that are on their mind, or there are things, maybe there's pressure that they're feeling because things aren't going well. And if you start your meeting as a complaint session and you allow people, the very first things out of everybody's mouth is how bad it is, what's the worst thing that's happened, and here's how miserable I am, here's what I'm dealing with. Folks, you have set the tone and the direction for that meeting. And that meeting is going nowhere good, right? Because the questions we ask determine the answers we find. The things we entertain determine the direction we're going to go. So what if at the beginning of a meeting you say, hey, can we celebrate the best thing that's happened amongst our team since we were together last? Or who has something you want to celebrate from your work life, from your home life, from your hobby life, right? And all of a sudden we're creating a different energy source, because where attention goes, energy flows. So if we can focus that attention at the beginning of a meeting on what's good here, what's positive here, what we've accomplished here, what we choose to celebrate here, you will have more positive results in that meeting, and you'll accomplish more and make progress in a positive direction versus who wants to complain and gripe.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, you're preaching to the choir here, and that's so true, and it's not difficult to do. Again, in IT, it's interesting that when we want to do something positive, we frame it in the context of the problem. We say we troubleshoot. We say we problem solve. Right? We have a post mortem.
That's
You
right.
know, I mean, you think of those terms, and they start from a place of the problem, as opposed to bringing the, like you said, bringing the energy and bringing the energy and taking the blinkers off, where that energy is. You've got creativity in the
Yeah.
space, and now you're looking for affirmative ways to deal with an issue, as opposed to looking at the problem and trying to remove a problem.
Yep.
If you can inject a solution, it's actually more productive and more creative than you just
Absolutely.
looking at trying to take a problem away. And yeah, it's powerful, very powerful. Kevin, thank you so much. I was looking at a 30-minute mark. We've gone to 40, but that is, I'm totally happy with that. You're a blessing and a great asset.
Well,
And
thank
like
you.
I said, 2 weeks is like, I'm looking forward to the next 30 years with you, mate. So,
Absolutely, man. So, Steve, there's something I want to offer. And I had to get the link. We'll provide it somewhere. But we created something. It's a gift. We created something last year that's called The Beginner's Guide to Gratitude. And if this is something, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, well, we have a 5 day. It's an email. Or well, it's not. It's not an email. It's in a. It's in a shell, right? But there, you. We'll provide the link. Steve will have the link. But there is this 5 day beginner guide to gratitude, and whether you're the first time beginner or whether you're just beginning a new sprint with gratitude, will help you get a grasp of things you can do every day to grow gratitude. And it's our gift to you.
there you go. Great. Growing gratitude, leading with gratitude. Uh, you know, owning that persona of the manager who leads. You could be a seasoned manager in your space, just looking for that inspiration or just looking for that guidance, or you could be someone who could actually bring to this group some of your valuable experience and background. That's great. We would love to have you on an interview platform like this. And if you're wanting to find out more, definitely share this content, and we'll have links to Kevin and more information within the group. But Kevin, for now, thank you so much. Thank you so much
So,
for your
Steve,
time,
I got to
energy.
say two things.
Go for
Thank
it. Go for it.
you for inviting me. And Steve and I both want to thank you, managers who lead, who took the time to join us for this conversation and allow us to share this time with you. So, thank you for watching or listening.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, that's great. Thank you so much again, and we'll catch you on another interview. And have a good day.